Okay, so now we're ready to start the waistband. Again, we're using the curved pointy end of our ironing board to make this a little easier, looping it on here. The first thing we're gonna do is you're gonna take this top edge that has been serged, and it's gonna be really tiny. We're gonna fold it to our stitch line, but not over. Honestly, it's about the width of the serging. That's pretty much all we're pressing here first. So I'm starting at one of the seams. Let's see, is this the center back or the center front seam? This is the center front seam because it has one notch. And I'm just gonna rotate it around kind of like we did the hem. Just folding this top serged edge to, but not over, that top marking line. All the way around. If you go a little bit over, that's okay. You just don't want to go a lot over. And again, we want to make sure that the center front and the center back lines, that the seam there is pressed open. And we keep that layering in place as we press this next step. Oop. And I am back around to where I started. For the next part of this process, I want to start from the center back seam. This is the center front seam, I know, because it has just one notch here on this seam on both sides. So we're going to rotate this around till we get to the center back seam, which has the triple notch. And now we're going to take the edge that we folded and we're going to fold it to, and honestly just a hair's width or so over the stitch line that we thread traced. Before we press this, we really want to make sure that this is the right width across. So you're going to double check. If you've done everything correctly, it should come out to be about 1 1/8 inches. That is what we want. So check it as you go along. Make sure it is about 1/8 of an inch wider than 1 inch. That we're gonna press, and then we're gonna pin. So I like to, because of the next set of stitching, we're gonna top stitch this down like we did the hem, but we need to leave a gap in here so that there's a place for the elastic to go into to thread everything around. So here's the trick that I do to remind myself to keep a gap. As I'm going to put 2 pins really close together on either side of the center back seam. I never put pins this close together unless that is a stop and start point. So I know I'm going to start here and stop here because that's a nice visual. And for this time, I'm going to pin this direction because I want to make sure that I am catching all of the edges here that is pressed under. Okay, rotate this around, fold 2 and just maybe a tiny bit over the edge. Measure before I press that I'm at least over that 1 inch line, that 1 inch amount, because our elastic is 1 inch wide and we need this channel to be slightly, only slightly wider than our elastic. We're gonna do this all the way down. Oop, didn't check. getting a little wide, but that's okay. Make sure the seam stays open. All right. Now we're back to where we started and we're ready to take this to the sewing machine. Before I start stitching the waistband, I'm actually going to change my stitch settings. So instead of doing stitch 1, that is the straight seam in the middle of my presser foot, I want to move it so that the stitching is to the left of the presser foot. So that's stitch number 2. Gonna do that. Remember, on these Janome machines, you've got to always change the stitch length back up to a 3. All right, now we're ready to start sewing. Now my needle is to the left of the presser foot. That's gonna make this a little bit easier to stay right on this folded edge. Remember, you wanna start at the center back. You're leaving a gap over the center back seam. I have done pins, double pins, to remind me that is my stop and start place. So I do not want any stitching between these sets of double pins. I'm gonna line it up right on those pins, and they get those out of my way before I start stitching. And you want to try and stay as close to this folded edge as possible because we need as much space for your elastic to go through. So if you veer off into your casing here that we're creating, your elastic may not fit, or we'll have to kind of fold over in order to fit through the casing. As you're going through this part, take it easy, take your time, try and be as accurate as possible. Normally I stitch pretty fast, but not on something like this. So notice how much slower I'm sewing compared to how you've seen me sew in the past videos. Shifting my fabric so nothing gets bunched up underneath. I'm back at my double pin, so I know that I need to stop here and don't stitch between these pins and where I began. Stitch up to it, back stitch, and then take this off. So now that I've got this kind of off a little bit, you can see how close to the edge my stitching is. You do want to try your best to be as close as I have done in this video, because we want to give the inside of our casing here as much room as possible without being too much space for our elastic. So you can see the elastic is going to go in there.